Hey guys, how's it going? It's been a while since I actually have finished the personal testimony that I have done. It's been quite a while, and I can't remember the last time that I was recording my testimony. The last time I was talking about, I believe it was middle school. Yeah, I was talking about middle school. And so maybe today I will talk about my high school experience. And forgive me, these testimonies are going to be just a little bit on the longer side. So, you're going to have to be maybe a little bit patient. But maybe I'll break them up into several parts so that way you don't have to just sit there and like for a 30 or 40-minute video. Um, anyways, uh, so 2001 is when I came here, September 22nd, 2001. So, yes, that was like almost a week after 9/11 that I came here to the United States. And yeah, it was quite an experience for me to be coming here at such a critical and precarious time. It was very uncertain, for Americans to for such a thing to happen. And I still remember what happened because I was at a good age to remember those things. I was 13, obviously. Um, but 2002 is when I graduated from middle school and I transferred to Fontana High School. I'm sure the people who went to Fontana High School with me, who are on my Instagram or on my Facebook, they remember me. We had the same classes for the most part, and so they got a look of how I was, or like a taste of how I was, like back in high school days. I was not necessarily a bad kid, but I was just one of those very shy, quiet kids. I would still consider myself, in fact, shy today. I wouldn't necessarily say that I'm naturally the most confident person. It doesn't mean that I don't know who I am or I don't know my own worth, but what that does mean is that I'm more reserved, right? So let's just put it that way. And I'm not the kind of person who is likely to go up to a bunch of people and say hi to them and, be all mushy and everything. That's just not me. But it doesn't mean that I'm not friendly. I definitely consider myself a friendly person. But I think that side of me comes out usually only when I'm really trusting of a person. And so in high school, you have to understand that I was only a year in the United States so far, and I was encountering a completely different culture. And it was very difficult for me at first to understand, a lot of the ways that people talk, the things that they liked, the things that they disliked, and especially in an environment where Christian ways of thinking was not very prominent. And I was one of those kids who was like raised as a Christian my entire life, so it's not like I just never believed in God and eventually I came to, I don't have one of those cool, underdog stories about how, I used to do this bad thing and that bad thing and, like Christ saved me and all that. No, I just grew up a Christian my entire life. I was never anything else besides that. I was always a Christian. I was always going to church and attending services and whatnot. And in fact, I started reading the Bible as early as 5 or 6 years old. So and I'm 33 right now, so that means for 27 years I've just been directly influenced by the Bible. A lot of it, my own reading, my own studying, my own thinking of biblical truths and the scriptures, and that has really changed me, obviously for the better. And I have become a much better person as a result of it, to the point where I really feel like an old man, like in the way that I think. An old man or like an old woman, like those older people who have like gray hair and they're just sitting there. They're the stereotypical like wise old person. They're just very calm. They're very collected. It's not like younger people, how they're so anxious to just get every word out of their mouth. They just can't stop talking. They just want to talk and show you how cool they are. Whereas older people, obviously, the older they get, the more mature, usually, right? I know there's always exceptions. Some people will say, no, well, I know younger people who are mature, older people who are not mature. Those are exceptions. But generally, my observation has been, and safe to say everybody's observation has been, that the older you become, the more mature you become. And so, anyways, um, older people are not like that for the most part. Like, they're not so desperate to try to prove who they are, or to try to um, demonstrate to you that they are worthy, because they've already lived that experience and they know their own worth, so they're comfortable inside their own skin. And so in many ways that can be interpreted as confidence, right? Like, I know my worth and there's nothing you can do to shake that from me, so I don't need to talk as much as you do in order for me to demonstrate my worth. But in many ways it can be seen as like boring, like old, grumpy, and there are certainly those elements that come with it as well. But yeah, I mean, like, generally, that's how I feel in many ways. I just feel like, I mean, obviously, the fear of the Lord brings knowledge, right? That's what it says in Proverbs chapter 1. I believe it's verses 3 or 4, right? And so it's wise to fear the Lord. And, as a child, as a teenager, obviously, because now I'm in high school, um, you know, I feared the Lord, and it's not like I was as mature as I am today, obviously, because I'm still always growing, and I'm going to continue to grow in my knowledge of God's Word and grow in my maturity. But I was trying to at least be an example to my peers, and a lot of them were into a lot of shady stuff, like, just weed, uh, drugs, partying, like, especially the athletes. I'm sure you high school students can relate to that. Like, you're probably going through that phase right now where the cool people, the ones who get all the girls, they're all athletes. They're probably on the football team or the basketball team. The other ones, maybe not so much, but definitely the football and the basketball players are the ones who get the girls, and the nerds are the ones who are kind of like ignored and pushed to the side, and they're seen as like weird. So oftentimes they're avoided like the plague. I have a feeling that's probably worse today. But, you know, uh, yeah, so I was one of those nerds in high school. In fact, I'm still a nerd even today. And I was shy. I was insecure. I wanted to kind of like downplay some of my nerdiness and my intelligence, because I was trying so hard to like fit in with others, and I wanted to get along with them, even if that meant compromising on certain issues, right? And that's where sin starts creeping up, obviously, because I'm more concerned with what others think of me instead of what God thinks about me, and that's one of the biggest mistakes that anyone can make. So, but I started building more connections. I hung out mostly with skaters, and there were these guys who would call themselves punkers, right? So what are punkers? Punkers are those people who would wear like these, denim jackets that were mostly either blue or black, right? And denim, like pants. They would wear like a shirt, either like a regular t-shirt or like a cut t-shirt. So the t-shirt that I'm wearing right now, it would be like cut on the side, and their arms would be showing, right? And they would spike their hair. So they would cut the side of their hair over here, and they would leave this little line of hair that would just go all the way to the back of their heads, and it would just kind of do this. It was like a little mohawk, right? And it was super tall. Like, some of these guys, even girls too, like, not even just the guys, even the girls, they had their mohawks were just like a foot tall, or like taller sometimes, and I don't know how they had so much patience doing that. So I would even ask them. I remember one time, one of my friends, he had like green hair, and he had like those spikes going on in his head, and I would ask him, and I would say, so I was like joking with him. I said, so how do you like sleep with those spikes? Like, do they ever break off when you're trying to turn on your bed? And he was like, well, he chuckled for a little bit, but he was like, well, I mean, I do wash my hair before I go to sleep. So usually this was his ritual, right? And I'm assuming this was also the ritual that all of them had, they would partake of, right? So he would get up around like 4 or 5 a.m. in the morning, and he would wet his hair. So he would like wash his hair a little bit, and then there's this gel. It's called alligator gel or something like that, right? So, but it was one of those really strong gels. Like it had a strong hold on it. So when you put it on your hair, it's hard for your hair to move, right? But the downside of that is that that kind of gel has so much chemicals in it that it just kills off the hair follicles in your head. And it's not good to use it for too long. But if you want to kind of minimize those negative effects that I mentioned, um, there was this. I guess it's sort of like it's in a sense like a rubbing alcohol or some sort of special chemical that they would use to kind of melt that gel, and he would just do that in order to wash it and make his hair kind of like free from all that gel that he put on his head. So I just found that to be pretty interesting. Um, so skaters, punkers, they were not exactly the most Christian people on campus. They were into like smoking weed after school. Like sometimes I would walk after school and I would see some of them, just like sitting there on the sidewalk and they're just smoking weed and doing all these things. And they knew, some of them knew I was a Christian kid. So there was this one guy, his name is Sebastian. I haven't seen him ever since, actually. I left high school. So if he ever watches my video, hey, what's up, man? This is this is your old friend Anush. So, but I remember one time I was walking by his house. Yeah, I'm not gonna mention where the area is. So, but anyways, I was walking by that street towards my other friend's house that I knew from middle school. And I looked and I saw him sitting there and he was just smoking weed. And sometimes, because they knew I was a Christian, they would like throw the cigarette away. And, in order to be more respectful towards me, to respect me, because they didn't want to like tempt me or anything like that. And so, they would throw it away and like step on it with their shoes and say, "Oh, hey, what's up, Anush?" So, but anyways, I thought that was interesting because today people are not that they're not that decent. They'll just do it in front of your face, like they'll smoke weed, they'll make out. Sometimes they'll do god awful things. Maybe one day they're gonna have sex in front of you. A lot of people today just absolutely have no respect. They have garbage behavior because people who do that are garbage individuals until they learn to change that behavior. Um, so yeah, I mean, like that was the culture. We listened to a lot of like Slipknot, a lot of System of a Down, a lot of the Metallica, a lot of these, you know, old school 2000s, 90s kind of bands. Nirvana was one of them, and it was fun, man. Like I actually enjoyed listening. At first, it was kind of loud, so I wasn't really used to that kind of music genre, but eventually I got used to it and I started to enjoy it. I genuinely enjoyed it. I wasn't just like doing it just because they're my friends, because they would recommend that to me and say, "Hey, Anush, you want to listen to this?" And so back then it was like the CD player, so there was no like Apple Music. Let me pull up my app. There was no smartphones back then. I know that's hard to believe, especially for Gen Z. They're like, "Whoa, whoa, you didn't have any smartphones?" I was like, "Nope." I literally had to be smart for my own phone. So, and I actually didn't have any cell phones in high school. In fact, a lot of people I know did not have any cell phones in high school. So, yeah, try living like that for just 2 days and see how it works. So, and we had our CD player, and so he would share, like he would put one earphone in his ear and give me the other one, and I would listen to it. And actually, yeah, I started to enjoy those songs, like that kind of music was becoming very interesting to me. And, yeah, it was really fun. So in many ways, now that I think about it, I had like a pretty innocent upbringing, even in like high school. So I didn't have to worry about all these crazy things that a lot of like youth are worried about today, especially like mass shootings, because that was not a thing back then. Like there were no people who did mass shootings or anything like that. Another aspect was mental illness. Nobody talked about mental illness back then. Like, not the students, not the teachers, not the faculty, not our parents, not anybody. Nobody even uttered the words mental illness before. It's not that we didn't know about it. It's that it wasn't something that we talked about. But I would also say that not many people had that issue as they do today. So that's one reason why, because a lot of people say like, oh, well, it's more open now, so that's why more people talk about it. People had it back then, but they just didn't talk about it. It's like, to a certain extent that is true, but it was also less. Not as many people had those issues. Not to say that none of them had it. I certainly had those issues, but I wasn't aware of it. I didn't understand exactly why I was feeling the way I was feeling, but I just figured that, hey, I just have to do something to get my mind off of it. I don't have to think about it so much. I don't have time for that. And I knew myself, I'm more of a negative, pessimistic kind of a person, and so I just figured it'll just go away. Like, I just need to do something that's engaging, whether it's, talk to my friends, play with my Game Boy or my video games, watch a movie, go on the internet for a little bit, but that was it. I didn't really think too much about those things. There was no YouTube back then. YouTube came out in 2006, and even in that time, it was not really that great. So it was very like primitive. It was not anywhere near as big as it is today. It was just seen as something for fun. So a lot of times you would just go on the internet, and we would have to like go to these websites where, like LimeWire, you would download these other videos and watch them. And I don't know if they still do this today. There were these guys that would, even women to a certain extent, who would sell these bootleg DVDs, right? So what they would do is they would go to the theaters, and they would probably like attach some sort of camera, or they would sneak in a camera, and they would record the screen, and they would burn it onto a CD, and they would sell that for X amount of money. And so we there were some times where we bought those DVDs, me and my friends, but eventually we stopped doing that. Obviously. So yeah, but overall though, like, my high school experience was okay. I would say I did not enjoy high school as much because, just for me, I just didn't really want to be in that environment. I really enjoyed conversations with adults, like, for example, I talked to more people who were in college than I talked to people who were my own age, because I just didn't really enjoy talking to people my age until I started attending college. Then I really started enjoying talking to people my age. So I was like, okay, that's kind of strange. Maybe it's just the high school environment that brings out the worst out of people. But as soon as we went to college, I saw a lot of people, my age, and I enjoyed talking to them, and talked to a lot of women. Even, I don't know why, for some reason, like in college, a lot of women found me attractive, and that was pretty interesting, because in high school I was pretty much invisible to most women, but in college I just felt like some sort of celebrity, so that was kind of a shock to me. But anyways, so yeah, high school was good, and there were good parts of it, so it wasn't all bad. In fact, nothing is all bad or all good. Life experiences have a mixture of both elements. Yeah, so I'm going to continue talking more in another video about like my high school experience, just to kind of give you guys a glimpse of it. Maybe someday I'll even write a biography. I don't really know. We'll see. So that'll keep me busy. That'll be a good project to undertake. But anyways, guys, I'll see you in the next video. I just wanted to, give more details about my personal life, growing up, especially in high school. And so I'll look forward to the next part of my high school experience. Take care, guys.